In this episode of the Encounter Report, 4 people thank the wind for fast travel in the Nord Highlands and Trails of Cold Steel 2. There's Axelrod, your humble narrator who did a New Game Plus second playthrough on Nightmare difficulty on the PlayStation 3. Alongside him is Ghost VTS, our difficulty diplomat who played the game for the first time on Nightmare difficulty on PC, Kazlo25 the Dog Whisperer, who played the game for the first time on PlayStation 4, and Neomatter, who played the game blind on PC. With all that said, who wants to rent some horses? First up are the battle types, and the same caveats from the first game apply here for my numbers. I carried over my levels on my playthrough and put much less emphasis on fighting encounters, so we can once again ignore my numbers for the most part. For everyone else, there is certainly an interesting spread across the time spent in random encounters. Despite being on the hardest difficulty, Ghost VTS's times are noticeably shorter than Neomatter despite having more encounters in several categories. Neomatter averages 2 minutes 12 seconds across all encounters, while everyone else is at 1 minute 37 seconds or lower. The longer encounter times is certainly attributed to Neomatter's methodical approach to fights, but we also can't forget the streaming factor as well. There is a vibrant community that each person attributes their time to, and this also adds to the clock. Kazlo25, he once again sports some of the lowest numbers amongst the group due to his utilization of the turbo feature. It was utilized on 100% of his encounters, which is the highest of everyone else. Ghost VTS used it on 40% of his encounters, while Neomatter used it a total of 4 times. Interestingly enough though, Kazlo25's percentages are very competitive with everyone else, where he finds himself in the middle of the pack or leading it for encounter time or encounter percentage. The turbo feature certainly does wonders. For the remaining battle types, it's worth noting our trial chest numbers. There are 25 of them in the game, and there's a distinct difference in priorities. Ghost VTS simply missed a few, while Kazlo25 actively avoided them after one wasn't to his liking, and Neomatter and myself opted to go for all of them. With battle locations, we see a different spread. Dungeons consistently make up the highest time being spent in encounters, but for Ghost VTS and Neomatter, world map encounters are very competitive. It's also worth noting that the run percents are very low, in addition to the fact that when you compare Kazlo25's encounters with the turbo feature with my encounters where I carried over my levels in New Game Plus, they're extremely close. Speaking of running, combat types are up next, and once again, running was not a significant factor when seeking solutions. We can see some drastic deviations on Kazlo25's end for the encounter time percentage, however. 79% of his time spent in encounters were fights where he was victorious, while 18% would be attributed to his deaths. This is a large departure from the rest of the pack, and his death count certainly sticks out. Up until the final stretch of the game, his largest challenges were the extermination side quests, and then bosses would prove to be his biggest challenge. For Ghost VTS, bosses would create most of his deaths, while Neomatter's biggest challenges were bosses and trial chests. Moving on to subtypes, we were all fairly consistent with our respective pools, as it were. Neomatter and Ghost VTS both did a small amount of grinding, of which 29 of those encounters were shiny palms. We managed to finally catch Kazlo25 in the act of grinding as well, which was nice to see. Sadly, the majority of his grinding was once again off screen, but it is what it is. In the advantages department, there was a significant decrease compared to the first game as far as percentages go. That said, the triple advantage continues to be a highly sought after prize. When comparing the total amount of encounters that had an advantage compared to the grand total of encounters, I was at 64%, Ghost VTS at 80%, Kazlo25 at 24%, and Neomatter at 61%. For notable locations, we're going to stick with the Reverie Corridor. Throughout everyone's playthroughs, there was definitely a dungeon or two that brought the greatest amount of challenge, but the final dungeon of the game would prove to put up the best of fights. Only Kazlo25 struggled within the dungeon, where he racked up 5 deaths on the final boss because it definitely wasn't playing nice. It notably vanished key party members multiple times that sent him down a dark path of recovery, especially when the extra enemies overwhelming him and chaining into multiple instant kill moves. For the rest of us though, it seemed we all had a trick up our sleeve. I was on my second playthrough, which afforded me a lot of wiggle room to squeak by. Ghost VTS, on the other hand, uncovered a powerful strategy by generating effectively infinite turns with uses. With these turns, he would utilize the Zerum items to crush the boss in 4 minutes 11 seconds. Neomatter also took a similar approach with Zerum items, except he had Laura equipped with Taros, which did all of the heavy lifting. Laura effectively defeated the boss on her own in 5 minutes 48 seconds after 4 S-crafts and 1 S-craft from Sharon. Party composition will be cycling by, and one added stat is S-crafts used, since I was curious about the distribution. In terms of party members though, the game has 20 playable characters, which is really getting out of control. That said, my party for the final boss was Reen, Elliot, Emma, and Sarah. Ghost VTS had Reen, Emma, Eusis, and Laura, while Caslo25 had Reen, Elliot, Laura, and Fee. Neomatter's party was Reen, Laura, Emma, and Sharon. And just in case, I did not do the divertisement, which is why I have no numbers for the Geofront dungeon characters. The perks of New Game Plus. And here's a brief look at game time versus encounter report time just for comparison's sake, so I recommend pausing if you're interested. As I mentioned for Trails of Cold Steel 1, there's a lot of caveats that go into the game's recorded time, so that is the cause for the disparity. The final combined stats are here to take us home, and one of my favorite parts of this is the encounter percent. Throughout many encounter reports, various participants contribute different styles and VOD length. However, something that has been fairly consistent is the range someone can expect encounters to take up in a playthrough. Even with Ghost BTS having nearly 30 more hours in VOD length over Caslo 25, or Neomatter having nearly 30 more hours than Ghost BTS, they're all within a few percent of each other. Even my New Game Plus playthrough isn't too far off. And that's all we got for the Trails of Cold Steel 2 Encounter Report. I hope you visit everyone's channels and social media to praise them for all this wonderful data. With another report done, I think we can officially say snakes are phasing out of popularity. Thanks for watching, appreciate it, see you on the next video.